Welcome to the second episode of our Spice Blow Radio podcast. Hello, aka the Gamescom edition. So we got lots of stuff for you today. We are going to talk about the CommuniNet newsletter, which was released on the day of our last podcast. And we will go ahead and talk about the big event of this year so far, the Gamescom with the big gameplay reveal of Dune Awakening. A lot of stuff to talk about, and again, we will have a new giveaway with nice swag from Gamescom today. With me, there are Steven from Unofficial, and we've got Megan again with us today. Good. How are you feeling today? Steven, have you completely recovered from Gamescom?
Of course not. Why would I do that? I mean, it was quite an awful lot. So, Skype, give quick introductions. Hi, everyone. I'm Stephen, otherwise known as Flaming Mojo. If you're around the Discord server, you probably know me. I'm just a piece of furniture around there at this point. I was the founder of the Awakening Wiki, which is the Dune Awakening community wiki, which has been ongoing since February now, which my delightful wiki elves have been doing an amazing job over the last week, getting in pretty much every bit of information that has ever been talked about in the last week through dozens of interviews and streams and announcements. So honestly, big hand to them as well. So yeah, that's me. Slowly getting there, recovering. As you can see, I've got quite a loot pile now, which has been lovely. But yeah, that's where I'm at. Water discipline.
So, Megan, how was it for you staying at home and being connected like a spider in the net with all the information around you?
Oh, it was. I was a little sad because I really wanted to go because it just looks really like you guys had like an amazing time and got all the loot and stuff. But it was also nice being able to see the information as it dropped and being able to watch the crowd, getting to watch the 5-minute trailer and then getting to watch the different versions of the stream that they sent out. That was pretty exciting too. So it's going to be a good one. I'm excited. The game is shaping up really well, and the community is shaping up. We're sitting in the Discord, and everybody's joining, and it's been really, really great. So I'm excited. Yay!
Yeah, it's coming from every corner, and as I mentioned a couple of seconds ago, we got the CommuniNet newsletter, which was released on the day of our last podcast, which is like repeatedly coming newsletter from the team of Funcom. We've got the highlights with the Hako Village. We've got lots of great fan art, which was shared along the line. And if you want to share your fan art, use the hashtag Dune Awakening CommuniNet, which is quite difficult to pronounce for me as a German. But to get featured on the next episode, I guess. And there was kind of community challenge at the end of it. So we were asked to prepare fan art or ideas for a Hako Village, Hanover's Bar dance event, something like that. So have you had any brainstorming on that yet?
I really tried to avoid it. I'm just glad that they didn't try to get us to dance at Gamescom. That would have been pretty tragic. And they had a whole stage and everything. But no, it's been that's a really interesting little project. From one of the community managers, kind of a little bit of the behind the scenes of it. Those who are in Discord will know. That's been a dream project of Ignacy, one of the CMs. For quite a long time. He wanted to do it back in Conan, so he's very glad he's finally been able to get it now. So, yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking about any Juno-specific dance moves. I could only come up with the Ornithopter. maybe we have an emote like that, and thought about like doing the Harkonnen shuffle from Bald but Beautiful from the song we had on the last episode. And I actually know a girl. She's a dancing teacher, and she's specializing in shuffle dance, which is even more difficult than it looks like. And who knows? Maybe on the next episode I can show you some moves. So
I think you could get you can turn the Gom Jabbar into a dance move.
That's a good idea as well. Yeah.
Yeah, it has come up. What kind of music would be playing in that bar? Is it going to be like some dubstep? Is it going to be like hardcore techno? Is it going to be like, lo-fi? What kind of what's the vibe going to be under the whale?
It honestly looks like the most. It might as well have been live streamed from one of like the most hardcore bars in the middle of Berlin. Honestly, so I can just hear the raving, and people
Glow
kind of off
sticks.
their gourd on spice, just going for it.
We need glow sticks.
How's Erebus wants us to improve so we can have a Hako Village background next time? Maybe, who knows? Or we do some special effects trickery in the background then.
Could be fun.
Yeah. So when talking about Funcom, another company which is kind of important to mention is Level Infinite, or at least Tencent, the parent company of Funcom. And to set us in the mood for the next topic, which is Gamescom, of course, I've seen that they've made quite a nice trailer, which is like wrapping up all the good stuff Gamescom had with Dune Awakening. So let's have a look. Yeah, and there he is, the big sandworm, which is maybe one of the biggest attractions on Gamescom, honestly, apart from that giant cat which was hanging from the ceiling, I guess. And it was really cool. I guess it took like several days to complete, like 5 days, and I was kind of interesting to see the rock, of course, is hollow. So there were lots of people who were trying to sit down or stand on the rock on the front. So they had to look after not destroying the scenery just for some nice pictures there. So, and that's the booth actually from Level Infinite. If you arrived in Hall 6 and straight ahead, you've got the big stage from Level Infinite, and to the left you had the tri-mouth sandworm, actually, which is not like the Shai Hulud, but a big one, of course. And that was, if you go left, then you had this long queue, depending on the day you arrived, where you could queue up for the gameplay presentation, which was, as we know, like about like half an hour in terms of time, and with a Q&A afterwards with questions, and the whole presentation being in German and English. And to spice up the time you spent on the booth, they got like stage activities, for example, like quiz rounds here where you could win stuff. I don't know if I could complete this question, which spice straight up.
I think this is a good opportunity to get the chat involved. Who in the chat knows the answer to that question?
I have to admit, I'm afraid they're all Dune experts here.
Are they? What's the right answer then? Go on, chat.
Actually, we have no prize for that at the moment, but
That's okay.
one of the big ones was the Ornithopter from Lego, which is really cool. I haven't built mine yet so far, and they did that repeatedly on the stage. You can see the Ornithopter from Lego on the right, and
there they go.
They know the answer.
Yeah, bragging rights.
You win bragging rights.
Yep.
Gem was for A, which is A is not that wrong actually, because it's like the acolyte and not the Bene Gesserit itself somehow. Some are correct in a way.
I mean, they call them classes as well, which itself is a bit of a misnomer. They're
And
not really classes; they're like mentors.
Yeah,
and then they
because
have,
it's
of
not
course,
you're not locked.
cosplayers on the stage and at the booth, like Anira from Spain, as far as I can remember, Alejandra, which was also one of the judges for the cosplay contest for the final on Saturday. And of course, we have many visitors there. The couple we are going to interview maybe in one of the next episodes, which are coming from Rostock together in the north of Germany, just for Gamescom, and had plenty of cosplay costumes in the bags. Actually, like I have seen them on Instagram, like doing a nice outfit like every day. And yeah, excited to talk to them soon as well. And here we got the whole team assembled, or nearly most of them, on one of the final days. Very nice, and taking care of all of us. And yeah, the next pick would be the holy halls of the inside of the booth with the theater we got here, with the seating, and on the top on the right, if you haven't followed the events on the booth so far, there was this little studio for the streamers, because Funcom has brought quite an army of streamers from all around the world in different languages to Gamescom to cover the Gamescom gameplay and to reveal some insights, and which is even like the gold we are all digging for, spicy details and a Q&A afterwards. And so if you are interested in even more information, you have to look after all the international streamers. I guess those are at least many of them which were there.
There
And
was
yes,
quite a few.
Yeah, there was actually really. I met at least I got to meet a few of them. They're really nice. I know that Sacriel, he spent like 4 or 5 hours playing the game behind closed doors. He was just like really into it. And it was like really kind of good to hear that
yeah,
they actually got a chance to play it as well, rather than just watching the video. But yeah,
yeah,
really good.
they had some unforeseen troubles at times. For example, like a bad internet connection and stuff like you wouldn't expect that. For example, the main stage was used for a concert, so it was super loud, so you can hardly hear them in the small studio inside of the theater. But they managed to do that, and yeah, if you had taken a seat, it would have looked like this. And with the gameplay demonstration we know, which was presented by Natasha Risley, we all know is the global senior PR manager. And on the right, you can see Karl Mario Garibay-Fröder. I have to read that name, it's quite long. And he's one of the co-art directors working on the game primarily on the vehicles. And as far as I know, he was previously working at Nuclear, which is one of the companies being involved in development of Dune Awakening, and which is also part of the funding by the German government. To work together between Nuclear and Funcom, and they specialized on the vehicles, and so all the vehicles we've seen are pretty much his babies. So, and he did an amazing job, and we will see more of the gameplay later. And that's pretty much it about the show itself. And what else was happening there during the time? Of course, all of the developers were present. Oh, we have to get into the right
Sliding over this way.
um, so all the developers were, of course, involved in interviews, for example, at IGN and other big media outlets. And there was, on the day I was there on Wednesday, there was the Level Infinite showcase, which was not bringing that much information, but it had a cool segment about Dune Awakening. I just show you a small clip here.
Adopt a different approach with Mentat skills and the Hunter-Seeker. Identify patrol patterns, and then,
as I mentioned before, I want to have that as an emote.
One by one. But keep in mind, the Hunter-Seeker only sees that which is in motion. You really want to establish a base of rocky ground to keep it safe from roaming sandworms. Building is freeform and made easy with friends, thanks to our hologram feature.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. A big cave with a large green screen and a nice lighting, very well done. And yeah, we had the streamers with the different input we could talk about, and I had an interview with Jeff Gagné, which is one of the war directors on Dune Awakening. I tortured him for about 40 minutes and squeezed out some information from him. And yeah, the full video interview will go online tomorrow at noon. So we got something to chew on before we head to the Dune Awakening Direct, which is coming on next Thursday, like in 2 days. And yes, Stephen, you have attended some of the other events as well. Maybe you can share some insight about the book club, for example, which was taking place on.
Yeah, sure. So we, so for those who don't know, in the official Dune Awakening Discord, we have a book club. We have been going since, oh god, when was it? I think it was like maybe June last year. So I think we're just kind of coming up to, if not over a year at this point. Originally started by Storm Ekrem, who's all the way on the right side of that picture now, before handing it over to me, and I've kind of been keeping it going ever since. So we meet every about 2 weeks or so and to kind of discuss a small section of the book. And we decided to have a special in-person event where it's just like a nice small chill get together around some breakfast and coffee, and just kind of have a little bit of a section, have a bit of a chat. As you can see, we've got a special guest of Joel himself there, and we streamed it on the Discord as well. So if you were lucky enough to be awake at 9 a.m. Central European time on the Saturday morning, you could have tuned in and literally kind of just talked almost directly to Joel and received, and for those lucky attendants, you could have received a loot bag there, as you can see, most of which is currently behind me on the wall there. But yeah, it was a nice kind of chill way. I can definitely tell you from that, and from our discussions, Joel and the rest of the team really know Dune, and he was discussing some really interesting parts and kind of just giving us a little window into his mind about the creative and art direction that he wants to go into, and how things, how he's taken things from the books and have turned that into game elements that adds quite a lot of extra flavor and really explain some things. Before I kind of come back on, hand it back over, I want to give one little example that I found really interesting, because in the section that we read, which was about a big banquet scene, they just in one line offhand text, they mention that a water trader has a contract of allegiance with the Atreides, and that's what he wanted to kind of get the guilds in the game, the player guilds in the game, to sign the same kind of contract with the Atreides or the Harkonnen, and has shown that in the gameplay trailer that was shown at Gamescom as well. So it's really interesting how he's taken just even one line, which is more or less the only time that such contracts are mentioned, and turned it into a game feature. So yeah, it was basically that. Those kind of discussions that for about 2 hours on the Saturday morning, and it was really interesting and chill. So if you'd like to tune into the Dune Book Club, I think I'll probably have the next session in about 2 weeks, usually on Saturday evening times, or if you're in America, about midday, give or take. But yeah, that was the book club time. We had quite a lot of fun. I'm going to have to move right now, aren't I? Andre's pressing buttons. Ooh.
Ah,
there he goes.
Oh, right.
go from the right this time.
Oh, what are you doing over there?
Okay, so let's talk about the biggest chunk, which was released by Famicom, which is the gameplay. And I just have to press the button here so we can start the video to talk about it. Is anybody able to see the video? Is it running for you? Good. Okay. So, what were your impressions? I mean, Megan, you've been sitting at home, you watched it for the first time. What was your impression? Was it enough gameplay to do?
It was for me. I mean, we got to see character creation, which was a big concern, I guess. A lot of people have played Conan, and the character creation for that was quite extensive. If you've played Conan, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It doesn't look like that particular. They've amped it up. I mean, we've got different hairstyles, we've got different eye styles, we've got different colors for lipstick and facial markings and scarring and tattoos and tattoo aging and all of these things. We can tweak things in a way that looks far more detailed than what we've seen before with when we had played Conan. And I think that just gives us this greater range of personalization for our characters. That I think a lot of players will like. I mean, it helps, even though it's not an RPG MMO. I think it will feed us a little bit that feeling that, I mean, we've got a lot of RP guilds popping up, and I think it'll feed that itch that people are wanting. And as someone said, yeah, -1 slider. It is the famous Conan slider. Don't need that one for this game, but it is. I think people will be impressed. I mean, I was really impressed. I mean, look at the makeup options. We've got eye makeup and scarring and lipstick, and it can be matte, can be gloss, can we do our weird eyeshadow. We get vertigo. We got scars, and I think people really responded well to what they showed us so far, just in character creation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And on my wish list, on the top of it was the in-game Shai Hulud, which I really wanted to see, and they delivered. And yeah, as I said previously, that feeling of just spending a lazy Sunday in a garage, tuning your sand bike, yeah, just hit the right notes for me. So it was just great, and even seeing more this time also of Hako Village, and interesting to see, because from my point of view, it had a totally different spin again on how we envisioned Hako Village, because so far it looked for me more like set into stone, maybe like a darker version of Arrakis, but from the scenes we've seen so far, it's really like little Gagné Prime, as Joel teased it before. And yeah, it's exciting.
It is. It really is. I like that the build set that they said that they used to make Hardcore Village would be available for players to use. So you can make your homage to Hardcore Village back in the basin or in the deep desert if that's what you like. And, I think as a builder, like from Conan, we see all the placeables and things that we just couldn't touch, we couldn't access yet. And we're like, but I want the thing. And now they're letting us have the thing from the get-go, which is really exciting to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's to kind of go off the back of that, and to kind of move back to the character creator, and also to answer Deep Blow's question in the chat, who was asking when will we be able to change our characters' looks after creating it. Funnily enough, that was one of the questions asked when I saw the presentation, although it was asked in German, so I'm hoping that I translated it. And the answer is, I believe, possibly, like, obviously it's kind of a feature that you'd expect to see, although right now in the beta they don't have it. It's just like a one and gone. So it's something that they'll probably be working on, a lot of things. But yeah, that was just happened to be one of the things that has been on a lot of people's minds, especially with these kind of games and especially this MMO. There's one of the 5 core pillars of the game is expression, and they really, I think, they've hit the nail on the head in terms of giving a vast array of options, not just for your character, but also your base, and I believe like the weapons and the armor and the vehicles itself. All of this kind of feeds into a kind of huge tool set to allow people to create their own, to create their own expressions in the game of who they are and what they want to be on Arrakis. And I think that's kind of a lot to look forward to. And I don't think that we need the PP slider. I think we can do pretty much, I'm afraid you'll just have to show that off the way that most people do in the real world, with excess wealth and big vehicles and, really loud sand bikes. That's the kind of, the same way people have compensated for decades.
Yeah, I had a question about the building in the game as well, and there was a little misunderstanding on my side, because I was getting much more into fantasy and hallucination in that moment, because Natasha was talking about that there's a huge Harkonnen outpost in the game, really massive outpost, and if you gain the ranks on the Harkonnen faction, you were given the building set of that outpost. And I was guessing that wrong, because she was saying like, if you're gaining the ranks, you get access to the building set and you can build with it. And I understood within. So I got the impression that you can actually build inside the outpost. And which came up to my mind was, for example, New Karthag, because it's building up in the game world. And I was like, wow, you can build inside the old outpost and you can create your base within that outpost. Wonderful. Okay, that's not the case. It was corrected. So my bad. And so you can really get building kits from big outposts and build your own ones. And connecting to that information, I asked Jeff Gagné if it's possible to build like player-created villages or settlements with several bases next to each other. And because it's fitting, I guess I just play that little clip about that. I'm just adding in.
So when I want to build something, what are the limitations in terms of creating a base inside of the world? What do I have to look after?
So you need to place a sub-thief console at first for the people who have maybe never heard about anything about the game, which helps you, allows you to claim a plot of land on the planet. And then that sub-thief has an area that you can build in. You cannot build outside of that. There's a way to expand that thing for a certain amount of resources. And then you can have, you can build as you want with different building kits that you can gain in the game. We have a stability system, so you cannot have this massive tower on a toothpick, everything is gonna break. And you have to pay taxes, so the bigger the base, the more the taxes. Of course, you have to think about that. And what else I can think about the buildings.
How close can buildings from different players be together? Can I create, for example, like an outpost with having small like bases next to each other?
So you have to place a sub-thief, and you have a maximum of them that you can put in the world. So as long as you can place a sub-thief, I can place a sub-thief next to you. I cannot overlap my area with yours. So the size of the area is pretty big. And then as long as we don't overlap each other, we can have our things next to each other, no problem. And if you want to make outposts, well, you have a maximum of sub-thief console that you can place. So with that in mind, you have to think about, well, if I want to make a new outpost, maybe I have to destroy one that I had before, right? To make sure that basically we don't want the players to just overload the world with buildings, right? That's the limitation that we have.
Okay.
Sorry about the echo, folks. We just realised it, and hopefully it should be fixed.
Here again.
Here we are.
Oh, good now. So yeah, but as we know, it's a little bit harder than that. You can't just build your bases next to each other and have a nice village because of the let's say isolation due to the shielding of the base, and the accessibility is a little bit difficult, for example, and due to the lack of NPCs at the moment, like market vendors not being in the game, it will be a little bit empty in terms of the streets, maybe. But yeah, in theory, it's possible to have nice little player-created settlements, which is intriguing as well.
Yeah, I think that's going to be really interesting to see how well that kind of fits in with the tax system. And funnily enough, if people will be doing tax cheating, just by kind of rather than having a huge base that incurs a lot of taxes, just have a bunch of like smaller houses, and go into that kind of classic property development scam as it is. Become a landlord on the desert, claim all the available space, and then just sell it back to people at a premium. I think that would be pretty interesting if people did that.
Yeah, I think they'll find a way to make it balanced. I mean, I think again they're taking those lessons from Conan and the land claim problem that can sometimes happen, where people just start building these massive bases that cause lag and latency issues, and the tax system I think eliminates when you have the mega clan that's got the giant base here and the base over there and these giant bases. They'll have one person log in every 2 weeks and just run around and tag them to refresh the decay timer. So they have like one person with these giant bases, and you won't be able to do that in Dune because eventually you'll run out of money if you're not playing, and if you're not having enough people to maintain the tax system on a big base, then the big base is going to go, and that will keep the bases down to a dull roar, I think, as far as size and number. So it's not quite so bad. And I say that as a builder. I love building it, but I build privately. I don't put a big base out or a village out on an official server because that's other people's spaces. And I think this system will keep things fair. I mean, we've seen big bases. It's not like you're stuck in a 2x2 cube. But I think it'll keep it to a dull roar and make it even for everybody.
I was just surprised because they want to have a game which is good for single players, for small groups, but on the other hand, they want to support giant faction wars, big guilds. And I was kind of surprised that I guess it was Pixel Cave who dig out a piece of information that Joel seemed to have dropped. I haven't checked that yet, but they showed us that he assumes that guilds are going to be like 30 to 50 people in one guild.
Yeah.
And so at High Times, I was wondering if you are a guild and you're really engaging in the faction war, for example, and let's say you've just won and you want to celebrate. Not everyone can celebrate in the guild base then, and that's the kind of, let's say, access and player distribution problem I can see coming ahead of us.
So funnily enough, actually, it was talking about this at the book club, because we had quite a decent time to chat, and we were talking about that kind of limit and how Joel himself is very much aware of several hundred player guilds existing already and have done for literal years at this point. And they're under kind of no illusion that there's no point trying to just kind of cap it for that reason. Just kind of stop people playing together. However, that's one of the things that they want to be able to facilitate a little bit. Is I think the intended gameplay design is going to be more, very large gaming communities that are obviously on Discord, be splitting down into smaller in-game guilds, and more likely inhabiting a Haggard Basin instance each. and then meeting up in the deep desert. He did mention at one point, obviously this isn't like an official plan or anything, but potentially having somewhere on the overland map where a guild could kind of have just their own area, just like you've got the Haga Basin, Deep Desert, and the others, having a separate area where bigger guilds could build just a huge base there,
Like
keep
a
it very
residential
in
area.
NPCs and load,
Yeah.
So they are definitely aware of that and wanting to be able to support a lot more players in the same space and working together and things. But it's balancing that and server capabilities and just the kind of nature of things. So hopefully we should be able to see some things.
So there was a question from the chat, which we can, I guess, quickly answer. So
Oh yeah.
I haven't seen anything mentioned if bases could be attacked. If you are able to attack a base, that would fix people from building and not playing for extended periods of time. So
they actually have talked about that particular concern. Base raiding is not a primary focus of the game. You can attack bases in the PvP zone only, and only if their shields are down, meaning like they haven't paid their electric bill or they haven't paid their taxes, or they've left it down because they want to be raided. So base raiding really won't be a thing. They want the PvP directed towards the run and gun in the desert over resources and not blowing up people's houses when they're offline. So base raiding, they've talked about that's not really a big part of what they have planned for PvP. And your base gets wiped once a week in the deep desert anyway. So everybody won't be able to camp on a spot forever and always and hold that point of interest or those resources, because next week it'll be wiped. So it will force the groups building in the deep desert to be constantly on the move. It'll keep them from getting to be mega ridiculous, outrageous, overpowered that way.
Yeah, there's also in addition to that as well. So that kind of prevents, for the most part, base raiding as a mechanic. While you can do it, it's not rewarding and it's not the direction that they want to be pushing people towards.
Yeah.
On the flip side, there is abandoned bases, which, as anyone who's ever played a survival game with free base building, is a problem. The way that's kind of handled is in a similar vein, where whenever you've got a base, you have to keep it powered and you've got to keep the shields powered as part of that. There are still two types of sandstorms. There's the Coriolis storm, which comes in the deep desert, wipes everything, so actually changes the map itself around to reveal new things and wipe out any bases, vehicles, people, just gone. And then there's also just smaller sandstorms. They can still rip apart metal in the lore, and those will kind of constantly eat at unshielded bases and exposed vehicles and of course exposed people. So that's a kind of constant erosion force. That means that over time an abandoned base will naturally be cleaned up and reclaimed by the desert anyway. So there's a lot of different things in play with it.
And you can see that raiding a base is not such a focus, because I was wondering how destructive the environments are going to be. And I asked Natasha if it's, for example, possible to, let's say, if the shields are down, place a C4 on a wall and try to break in. So that's actually not the case, because if the shields are going to be down, you're like inflicting lots of damage to the base. It's like degrading over the time. So it's not like you can actually break one wall and do something with it. So the base in total is going to get torn apart. Yeah.
I've got to say, I don't like the look of the base that is currently on screen. I don't like the look of it. It's a weird,
the
elongated.
pillars inside. I don't like pillars. I'm not a fan of pillars. I
Yeah,
avoid pillars if I can help it. But having pillars inside that way is just weird.
And building it on the sand as well. I get that they're just displaying the building system.
Yeah,
But
because Shiny
still,
Wood's gonna go nom nom nom.
oh yeah, I like the dome though. This is like a really cool little bit. You've got all the pieces that make a kind of towered dome area. I really like that. you're not just all squares. Although it looks hideous from the outside, I forgot about it.
Looks a bit like a chandelier. Yeah.
Need to get some architects in this. I cannot wait to see the amazing bases that people build, because you've seen them on like Minecraft, and even I think someone built the Taj Mahal in Conan. I remember seeing that, and just it looks like the bases, even just from what we've seen, the bases here are bigger in general. So who knows what we're going to see.
One thing that I've noticed that's been awesome from Conan, and I'm so glad they listened, is you notice how tall one wall is. In Conan, one wall is only about 8 feet tall, and one wall is never enough. You have to build everything 2 walls high, which is twice the resources. Otherwise, you're in a closet. You're feeling very claustrophobic, and some of your benches won't fit. But this one, it looks like that you've got 10-foot ceilings, and your stuff fits. Look at that; it fits without having to make everything 2 walls high. So the resources needed would not be as much per build to make stuff fit. And so again, I'm just a little happy that they've listened to all of our feedback about little stuff like building.
Yeah. There was a question if this was an Atreides base. Yes. And just to keep in mind, it's not possible, just from what was said during the presentation, which makes sense for any type of building, that you can't mix the styles or the skins. So you can't have a Harkon Atri sandbike. It's not going to be possible to make it like a crazy taxi with parts of Harkonnen and Atreides together. And I can imagine the same can be accounted to bases, that you can't create a mix and match of that. So you have to stick in terms of style to an overall theme behind that. Yeah. I guess. Because if you rule out that for vehicles, why shouldn't it taken into consideration for buildings as well? Yeah.
Someone had asked about, would there be ways to get spice and other deep desert resources in PvE if we don't want a PvP? And they've answered that yes, you can get spice in the basin, you just won't get as much. So if you're wanting to be really competitive, you can get the spice that way. You won't be PvPing over the spice blow, you'll just be racing to other groups that also don't want to PvP over the spice blows. So it's a matter of time and chasing the worm and just doing it over and over and over and over more often, because you go to the deep desert, greater reward for the greater risk. And also, it's not just about the spice, it's about how much money you generate from the spice. So the politics, if you have a very active PvE group and an active PvP group, you could be very competitive against them. It's just a matter of how much work are you willing to put into it.
Mm-hmm. I'm just hoping that they pretty quick implement looking for group feature, which is currently not planned, or not, at least as I got it from until launch. Maybe they just said they haven't got it yet. Because I could imagine, for example, when I talked to Jeff, let's say you are on vacation, you're returning home, it's 1 o'clock in the morning, you want to play with somebody, your whole guild is offline, you want to get into the action, then you actually have to fly there, for example, or search for people in the chat. So
yeah, I think it's that kind of difficult difference between, this is primarily a survival game with MMO numbers of players, and even though you can do those kind of group finding, or I think people have previously kind of called it matchmaking, although it's kind of I don't think that's the right term to be using it. I think an LFG function is better. That has, it's got the kind of practical implications. I think it could probably work at a social hub, like a Harco village, have a little message board. I'm looking for a group. But a big part of it is the direct, the need to travel, because there's no fast travel in the game. You can't just teleport to a certain place to do something. You have to physically get there. Otherwise, the whole point of the whole PvP as well being focused around attacking over resources and supply lines gets immediately undercut by that.
yeah.
I saw that question kind of come in. Decorations at least aren't locked. between Chome and Atreides decorations. I think there could be a language between it, a design language between them.
I just hope that they keep on making the game still accessible for people, because otherwise you can get the impression that it's a game mostly for a pretty confounded group of players who are paying a lot of attention to the game. And if you're more like a casual gamer and want to have fun as well, it's important that you have content to play and people around you. If you have less time, for example. And I agree that it's a game about travel, but of course, if you're lacking time, it's important to find fun very quickly in the game as well. There should be a place or way for everyone. And I really hope that they, for example, do something like that, looking for a group, for example, for the ecology labs.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. Or
I mean, also there's that kind of element of, I mean, it is a very, very large game, and when we say gameplay, we are actually really meaning a lot of very different things. There's a lot of different ways you can play the game. You could, you could just spend a session. I think, as Joel kind of said, he talked about it a fair bit. Just sometimes you just want to kind of get a farming set, grind on. You just put on some chill. I saw actually a video of it. It's like chilled tunes to relax to play Dune Awakening to, and just go farm rocks for 4 or 5 hours by yourself. Or sometimes you want to engage in huge battles or do eco labs, or camp out at the exchange and do some economic warfare. And or do contracts, as I've said, because I've said the main journey system. The one journey that we've seen so far in screenshots has been the Trial of Akil. There's also contracts that you do for lesser houses and for the great houses as well. I believe the Atreides and Harkonnens have them, which grant rewards and reputation, which are effectively quests. And I think there's so many different ways that you can play the game that I think, depending on your situation and your time that you've got available to you, you'd probably pick a different type of gameplay. And a lot can be done entirely solo. It's that I definitely think there should be a place for looking for group function, if nothing else, just as a quality of life feature.
Oh, yeah.
I just hope that they somehow take more inspiration from classic shooters. Sorry to say that, but there are, I guess, many, let's say, quests or situations which are suitable for Dune and which have their roots, for example, in classic fighting games, let's say, like Battlefield, for example. Because I could see there was one of the questions for Jeff, because I was wondering if you have like competitive contracts, for example, which are using the faction system, so that you have, for example, a classic VIP setting. You've got like the Atreides, which are going to pick up a spy on a market and to bring him safely to point B. And then you've got the Harkonnen, which are set to stop him. And because that's a scenario which is kind of Dune-ish to me, or could happen in the game, and which could easily be taken from games which had that. And he had an answer for that.
Well, we have that. The funny thing is, it never works, right? So to the extent that, like, we had a couple of things like that in the past, but it just never works. Like, you ask players to do X and other players to do Y, they never time each other, right? It's not like it's impossible to force people to absolutely match the opposite thing. Like, of course, it's possible, but it's really, really hard, right? But we have things related to the Landsrat that I'm not going to talk about. But it's still about like Harkonnen and Atreides, right? So they're competing objectives that a player will be able to fight about. That's what I'm gonna say. But like more like you have to get this guy, like you said, and you have to kill this guy. It just never happens. You will never have two people meeting at each other at a perfect time to do that, right? So all that to say that we tried to do something like this at some point, didn't really work because it It's impossible to match the time of people and things. So, but we have grander things against Atreides and Arcanine that will be somewhat like you're talking about.
Yeah, I think it's generally understandable. I think it's definitely good that they are so honest about these things. They're not in some kind of grand delusion that this is how the game will be played, and it's just going to be like, oh, we set these quests up and just let the players go do it. No, you've got to actually be practical about these things.
Yeah, but is it really? I mean, they've tested it, but there are ways maybe to do that. For example, like what I could imagine is like doing it like a PvE with a PvP crossover. So if you've got like one of the faction, the Atreides, and you've got NPCs which are trying to stop them, and then you've got like a world event, for example, calling all Harkonnen in the area. There are Atreides on the market which are trying to capture one of our spies, so go and stop them. Which is something which is maybe like capable of doing or ruling out as well, because it got like a nice spontaneous and world event to it.
I'd say it'll probably work better with longer term, like, contributing to objectives. We want, just even if it is kind of like a dominance of a certain area or setting up, collecting certain amounts of resources or denying it to others. I think what could make it interesting, I think I raised this in our last podcast as well, having and trying to lean into what makes Dune a really, really kind of gripping political intrigue setting. Trying to get people or to entice them or force them or trick them into betraying their own factions. I think that kind of offers a lot more kind of really interesting things, but at the end of the day, players are going to play, and if you present them with a problem, to use an example, in World of Warcraft, there was an open battleground that had, Horde Alliance kind of come in. One of them owns it and dominates it, and the other one has to take it every 3-6 hours, I think it was. And then they set the rewards for losing too high. So what effectively happened is, without any real communication, people have stopped fighting. They found that there was a reward for winning and still a reward for losing, because, of course you wanted that. People showed up for the battleground on the time, and they just stood there staring at each other until the timer ticked down, and then ding, the Alliance have taken the area, well done Alliance. And then 6 hours later, the Horde will take the area. No fighting, none of that. Helldivers devs put it really well. If you kind of train people to solve problems and then present them with a problem, they're going to solve it, but it's not going to be the game design that you want it to be. And I think trying to impose I think that's what Jeff was talking about, kind of trying to impose a system artificially is really difficult. But I definitely think there is going to be ways that they can weave it in, kind of set, even if you just set the rewards to be in a way that it makes sense for them to follow the game design that you want. It's difficult, it really is, and I'm hopeful that they can.
I just hope that they don't spare all the competitive parts for the political system, because if you think of like a pyramid of the population in terms of players, so the ones who are accessing the warfare between the two factions are a smaller group of all the players maybe playing the game. So I hope for the root of that pyramid, there's enough competitive gameplay as well to enjoy. I just want to pick up one of the questions there in the chat, and because yes, that was answered. Sorry. Yes, that's possible. So grabbing onto the ship keeps striking my sweet spot. So cinematic, but I also hope it's doable in the game. It's doable in the game. So you can use the grappling hook if the ramp is open, and you can stand there. But yeah, I hoped that it's possible to have ships or vehicles where you can go inside, or have at least like a fixed spot in there. Like coming back to, for example, a Battlefield game, you had a tank with 4 seats, 4 positions, and you could rotate around it. I hope there is like a spot reserved at the ramp, so you can open it and do stuff there. That's not possible. So it's not possible to ride the ornithopter, open it, and look down, but it's possible to use a grappling hook to get up there. So that was the answer that was given, because I was already questioning if it's not maybe interesting to fight over a large spice harvester, as we have seen, for example, in Dune Part 2. It's so massive, and taking over the control of that spice harvester would be even more interesting if you had like skirmishes inside of it, like really to the last stand, people fighting against the takeover. But then they said at launch there will be just small harvesters, and the big ones are coming later. So hopefully we can go inside there as well.
That'd be interesting to see.
There you are. Cool.
I was going to say on the missions. I mean, you have like fetch quests, you got escort quests. Escorts are the worst. They're the absolute. They are like gamer hell. There was one, City Heroes had one that was for you had to rescue Baby New Year. And so it was like this little 3 foot tall character. They took like a regular character and pushed him down to 3 feet tall. And so he had 3 feet tall long legs. And he kept getting hung up in the trees. And it was just like, oh, it was awful. I mean, it's like watching that Beaver the Dirt League where the guy keeps getting stuck and stands there and just cries. Those are the worst. And I would skip those because it's like, do I have to? I'm a completionist. I got to get all the marks, but do I really? Do I? Because that was awful. Or fetch quests are not so bad, but yeah, let's just keep, or go get 200 rock. That's not exciting. We need to have something that's engaging and meaningful to the universe.
Yeah, and I also hope that we get more systems for player to find each other and to engage the different kinds of play styles people want to enjoy. For example, like if you want to be an architect, maybe you want to be like a scout, just selling the maps. Maybe you want to have like a mercenary guild, which is just protecting people on their way. And I hope there is someday some kind of, let's say, I would call it like a handshake system. Because inspired, for example, in Germany, we have an online platform which is called My Hammer. I don't know if it's like in foreign countries as well, but if you need something like a certain service, you just type in what you need, and then you've got people showing up and saying, okay, I can do that for that price. And that would be super interesting if you, for example, let's say you are in the deep desert and you're like a small mining company and you want to get to a spice field. Then you say, okay, we are totally oppressed by the big mining guild over there. Can you give us some protection? And then you type it in the system. There are people like, okay, we are a guild for like mercenaries, and yeah, we can offer you some protection, but you have to pay this and that. And yeah, you can pick up and choose it. Or for example, you are in a guild and want to expand your territory in the deep desert, and you're saying, okay, we need a bigger base, but I want to have 2 towers with 2 turrets and a big gate, but I need somebody who crafts me exactly something like this and does a blueprint for that. So you type it in, and then there's an architect showing up and saying, okay, I got exactly what you want to, pay me that, and I will do that. And
like a bulletin board.
Yeah, like a bulletin board, or really like bringing those people together. Or for example, yeah, I just want to like do another raid on that ecology lab, but I know it's boring for everyone because I just want to have that certain mod for my weapon. And then there's somebody, okay, I have no interest in going there personally, but if you pay me, I will go with you. So,
Yeah.
like that, maybe. And then you can still betray people, for example, but it's your own risk then. But it brings people together and directly together, working in the sense of what type of role everyone wants to play in the society. And I hope they implement something like that later on.
I think even then, I know that those services will very, very much likely pop up naturally within the community. I know because I've made such a system within our guild. But there's I forgot what they're called now. There's a medic service, the entirely community-driven medic service in Star Citizen, which they've got a little Discord bot and such, and they go on the website and you just say, "I need help. I'm stuck in this planet somewhere in this sector," and you go up and you get a whole team of medic evacs to come and rescue you from wherever you are and kind of drop you off at a safe place for a price. And I think that is definitely some things that is definitely going to happen in some way or another.
Like the
It'll be
city
great
heroes
to see
attack police.
it, properly supported. Yeah, absolutely. One last thing that I have to go back to a previous thing, and I just had this thought, about grappling onto an ornithopter. How many people could grapple onto an ornithopter?
Before you pull it down.
Could we either pull it? Could you like ground an ornithopter by dragging it down to the ground with so many people?
Anchor it.
Yeah.
I don't
Or
know.
alternatively, can you just have one that's strap
And
onto a chariot and have like hundreds of people dangling from the bottom?
That would be hilarious.
And you have to be
Feeding on
a good trooper to do that, because as far as I know, the distance of the grappling hook is like upgradable. So at the beginning, it's like a short distance, and it gets longer if you progress. Yeah, so maybe we go on with another topic, if you agree. Are there any more questions about what we've seen in the gameplay so far? I guess not.
I like how when you're shooting when you threw the grenade, you saw the guy leap for cover. That's quite clever.
To address one of the points that has been raised again and again and again and again, the melee combat in it. I think even when I was talking with Joel and with Jeff and pretty much all of them, they were basically saying, even the press people were kind of saying that the melee feels without weight or janky and that lot. For kind of context for those who aren't aware, Joel's been talking about this as well, how this is a new melee system that was only introduced into their beta 2 weeks ago. It's like the first iteration. It's very, very much work in progress. They've got a long way to go in it to make it feel right. And notably, you see the knee kick that he's doing. That's the green silhouette that you can see on it is only visible to the kicking player. That's not shown or telegraphed to anyone else, and is also entirely optional. You could just tap that button and it will just kick, but you're kind of locked into the direction that you're going to be flying in. So that's one of the reasons this the melee combat and the combat footage in general in this is very much deliberately slowed down, so that as they're talking about it in the presentation, the video doesn't move on before they can actually address certain little things.
So what are your hopes for melee combat then? What would you like to see?
To be fair, I think it's got the foundations in there already. From what I can see, there's a lot of like really small detailed animations, but as ever with Dune, the lore and the shields make it really, really important, and they've got to get it right. I think for me, the biggest thing is going to be flow, and the ability to flow from one ability to the next in a kind of a sequence that makes sense, and that's really all I'm kind of hoping for, is to have it balanced and to have it honestly does look good, because it makes it. They've been very much shooter heavy in a lot of their videos so far, because melee's hard and they wanted to get it at least there before they show it. But it's going to be massively important to get it to go, to combat shields.
One of the things that he said, I think it was in this one, or it might have been in the 5-minute trailer, that all kind of blurs together after a while. But he was saying one of the reasons here you can use ranged combat is because no one has shields in this area. You're still close to the sand, and so shields aren't going to be as common, and so you can shoot them. and why close distance if you don't have to? I mean, I'm bringing a gun to a knife fight, I win. So, and he did say in this area you're not going to see shields as much because we're still, I guess, closer to the noob zone. I mean, we know that he's allowed to have 3 active powers. He's only got 2. That implies to me he's still starting out. So we're still not into the deep part of the basin yet. So I got the feeling that, right now they're showing us the part that's good and it's complete, and I'm happy with that. I don't think that there's a whole lot of meat left to put into the melee bit. Some polish, of course. It is new. I think it's going on 3 weeks now that they did the update. So it's still, and that was in response to what the beta testers had said. I guess the other one was worse. So we got to give them a little bit of time to act on feedback, and that does take time in a program. So I'm feeling good about what they're going to do with it. I'm feeling good about the direction it's going, and it's going to take time to get right. And I think it will probably still need a little bit of tweaking, maybe when they open next year. We don't know. But the more players, the more feedback they get, the better off it is. And we need, constructive feedback. Not, man, that looks crappy. It's.
For a very quick kind of little tidbit for those who may not have been on the Discord at the time, they wanted to do one of the community short videos focused around combat and melee combat as well. And this was back in February, and basically the devs vetoed it because they said we've got a bunch of feedback from the beta testers and we need to redo it, well, refactor it an awful lot, and you rework it. So, it is very much a work in progress. They've been going hard for literally 6 months to kind of get it to the state where it is now, and then they're going to continue going and going until release, hopefully, and then beyond release. They know very well that it's not going to be a fully finished game because MMOs never are, and I think that's kind of the expectation is to kind of get it right. They've got time ad infinitum to get the end game sorted as well, because the game kind of doesn't end. That's what an MMO is. But,
I just hope that since you spend so much time on battling, that we get more like little details. For example, like I would like to see, for example, that depending on which skill tree you're mainly focusing on, for example, that a swordmaster, for example, has a completely different stance compared to more like mented or trooper type of player, for example, or that you see the better you get like nice little idle animations, like the classic throwing the knife from one hand to another, which is completely nonsense, but looks very cool and makes you feel like you're super artistically skilled. And I hope to see something like that. And so the better you get, the more fluid your fight style becomes, and the more brutal the more brutal it gets in terms of, if you look at fight styles inspired by the Fremen, and more like dancerly style in terms of melee. That's something I look forward to, and maybe a little bit more feedback in terms of what kind of damage you inflict on your opponent. Because when I played the game, sometimes I wasn't sure if I was hitting the guy because I wanted to get more feedback from what I was doing, and which brings me to the fact that I still wish they had first-person perspective just as an option, because so far there's none at all, not for melee, as in Conan Exiles, and not for example, vehicles. So you haven't got a cockpit view, which is sad, but I hope they will add it later on, because it adds a lot of the immersion of the game as well. Yeah. Okay. So maybe after a short break, or maybe I just, before we do like a break and move on to the giveaway, I can say something about the time I spent on the game playing. So I spent an hour with the game, but I have to admit I was mainly fighting against myself. Because when I entered the room, I had to I had to confess that I'm a console player. So there were like gaming stations everywhere, and there were like mouses and keyboards, and I was like, I'm sorry, can I have a controller, please? And then they said, okay, we have one, and I got it, but they admitted that they haven't worked on the controller systems so far that much. So I can't really judge the combat and the controls with the controller, because there were some functions of it which just wouldn't work. For example, you could favorite, for example, medkits and place it on the Y button, but it wasn't possible. If you press the button, nothing happens, which, as you can imagine, is a little bit
Really dramatic.
annoying in the combat if you have to get in the corner to heal yourself and the fight is still going on.
Did you spam it and put like 50 bandages on at once? And just
Yeah.
become a mummy?
Yeah, I tried to, and the same goes, for example, for the menus themselves. For example, I was collecting intel points. I wanted to spend it on something to craft, and with a controller, you always had to do the same movements as the mouse cursor does. So I had to use the stick to get to the left corner, to select it, then go to the right lower corner to confirm. Of course, with a controller, it is possible to confirm with just pressing A, but that was buggy. So I had to move across all the time to do that. And speaking about the combat itself, so the level we have been given was more like a sandbox in a sandbox. So it's right after the tutorial, and you're in a desert area, and try to find a scrap knife to kill some enemies. And I was able to see the survival aspect in action, because I was getting dehydrated like every 10 seconds in the sun. And it was interesting to see that it's, as we talked about earlier, it's still manageable to play it solo, just with the right amount of difficulty, because I was sometimes facing like 3 enemies altogether. And it can be sometimes quite difficult to cross the distance if you've got a knife and they're shooting at you. So you're, of course, able to dodge and you're able to evade. I sometimes wanted to have like a lock-on system, at least for in terms of camera, because then you could like easily evade to left or to the right if somebody was pointing with a rifle at you. But if you're like let's say walking a curve or a banana, you can imagine it's difficult to evade somebody who's shooting at you, and you have to look at your path going a little curved and then trying to evade in right projection towards the line of shooting. That was a little bit difficult, but overall I really enjoyed fighting, especially when they gave me the suspensor belt. Because we did some kind of cheating, and had the suspensor belt and the Shiga wire, and that together was really, as we talked about, it's the fluidity of it. I was like attacking a base, and you can easily really take the grappling hook, elevate yourself in the sky, use the belt to hover even farther away. That was really, really fun, and enjoyed the shooting, especially with the shotgun. And so that's pretty much wrapping it up. I was flying with the ornithopter as well, which is nice, because I totally screwed up. You can.
Did you do a Lux?
Yeah, I did a lot of screwing
Straight in
up.
the sand.
Yeah. No, you could use the vault mode to glide around, and I accidentally exited the ornithopter. So I was walking on the ground, and my ornithopter towards a sandstorm, and I asked the developers if it's possible to spawn back or to teleport inside of the ornithopter. It's not possible, so you can just respawn if you're dead. But I just had to watch my ornithopter flying into the sandstorm, try to climb on some rocks to get back into it, but it was too far and too high. And
Yeah,
but
you did a Lux. I think the question that is on everybody's mind: did you get eaten by a worm?
Sadly not. No, I was too eager to fight all the bad guys, so I wasn't eaten by the worm because the time was over.
Did you even play the game? What's the point? But no, that sounds like really, really promising.
Yep.
Yeah, really looking forward to being able to see some of that. You didn't. I think you weren't able to record or anything, was it?
Okay, so we play a little music, 2 minutes, and then we get ready for a giveaway. Yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed the music. So big improvement compared to the last episode. No AI, it's all like DRM and royalty-free music now. And yeah, good to see that you like it.
Yeah.
So
Also, hi, Calais, it's me. Babyface man, how rude! I'm getting roasted by chat here. This isn't fair.
Which
So
one is
everyone
Mojo?
was
It's Mojo's
asking-
the one in the middle.
Everyone was asking what we are going to give away. We are going to give away this here. Ooh.
Ooh.
Sweet.
Yeah, it's a Fram Kit swag bag. And yeah, consisting of a poster and a bottle and the cap and those sweet pins here. As you can see, I've got the thing in real life here. Just bear in mind with me that I won't send you the bag, if it's okay. I'm not going to send this back to Guatemala or wherever you're living. So I'm going to split up maybe with a poster arriving in a tube, and then maybe with a different packaging doing the rest of it, the cap and the flask and yeah, stuff like that. So
I think you caught their interest.
I've got a question for you, and it's regarding Gamescom. And I'm going to ask you a question, and you've got like 15 seconds to give an answer. And the answer which is closest to the real answer is going to win. so you can just guess, or you are extremely fast with a mental brain in terms of searching. That I couldn't pin, yeah. Maybe we've got more pins for future episodes. Who knows? Okay, so my question is: Gamescom is over, and how many people have attended Gamescom in total? And oh, oh, how many people have attended Gamescom in total? Do you need another 15 seconds? I guess. There's a quite correct answer by Deep Lurk. Congratulations. Yes, it's true. It's like about like 335,000 people who attended Gamescom this year, a new record.
Wow,
Good, congratulations.
that's a lot of people.
I just hope we can get in touch. So maybe you can write me an email to hello@visitarrakis.com, or I just try to memorize your name and find you on YouTube, which is even maybe better. Congratulations.
Yeah, make sure you get your information so he, get your stuff. I want stuff. Loot.
Okay. So what's going up in the next couple of days? As I told you, tomorrow I'm going to publish the whole video interview with Jeff, and 2 days from now we've got the Dune Awakening Direct 3. One of the reasons I have chosen quite different questions during the interview, because we had really good interview with lots of details by Force Gaming like 2 weeks ago. And in terms of topics, certain stuff was locked. So you couldn't ask about like spice at all. Spice association, spice harvesting, no. And we will learn more about the water management and hydration management as well. Yeah. And that is pretty much it.
There's my poor wiki elves. There's so much information coming out so fast.
Yes, it is. Yeah, I was really like living in a bubble in the last day. So I had to work a lot, came home, family, finished, went on my website, doing stuff, and I really had no time to watch most of the streams so far. I'm trying to catch up with the German ones, try to maybe translate it into English, for example, the information given there, and yeah, slowly crawling through it.
Yeah.
There's a lot. There's a lot. The Q&A was extensive. I mean, some of it's going to be overlapping, but there's going to be a lot of information.
Any fun questions from the community?
Do I have anything
I
else?
should give it to Logan. Okay. Let's make a photo of that. Okay. We've got quite a strange gift management with the pricing of this podcast.
They're all divvying up. They're so nice. We have such a lovely community.
We actually
Nice.
we are very, very lucky
Thank
that
you, Deep Lurk.
it is as good as it is. It could go very, very poorly, and I think the Discord that Mojo and the devs have taken time to build is definitely a testament to the love of the game. And I think when the game, as more people start getting added, because they were saying they're expecting thousands more as we get closer to live and into live, the core that we've built here, I hope stays. I hope that we have this amazing community of people who PvP and PvEers and people from all around the world, and continue kind of this great community that we've got going. No one likes to play in a nasty community.
Yeah, well said.
I think we could. I think we've got enough really good people there to keep it
Yeah.
going.
Yeah.
Okay. Then one last song and we say goodbye. It's country. No, joking.
So I know how
So,
popular
goodbye,
country
everyone,
is.
and see you next time, probably sometime around after the next Dune Direct. Hope it's not Christmas. We will do it a little bit earlier, I hope. And yeah, hope you enjoyed the show, and see you on Discord and on the other channels. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.